Cece, what do you expect from Gurley on Sunday?
Man, I'm expecting to see as much as Todd Gurley as I used to when I turned on the SEC and I watch him playing for the Georgia Bulldogs. He was returning kicks. He was doing everything, all Mr. Everything for the Georgia Bulldogs. That's what I expect when he gets back to the state of Georgia. Look for him to play a bigger impact coming out of the backfield against those which I would call speed challenged linebackers of New England.
And I would argue the Patriots haven't played a truly great running back in the Super Bowl since the very first Super Bowl, Marshall Faulk. And they found a great way to slow him down. But Coach Mangini told us that was just because they refused to run the ball with him. The Rams.
Mike Martz and his ego.
Right. And Marshawn Lynch was the best of the other bunch, but Todd Gurley's of a different class.
Yes.
And so, he's the key player for the Rams on Sunday.
All right, finally, Tom Brady and LeBron James, two of the most successful athletes of this generation. Tom Brady was asked about the similarities between he and LeBron. Take a listen to this.
We're similar athletes. LeBron and I, both great size and speed, jumping ability, shooting. Not quite. No, he's a much better athlete than me.
Maybe he's a better athlete, not necessarily more successful. I would say success
sure.
right up there. But, Nick, what similarities do you see between these two superstars?
There's actually, to me, a ton of very obvious similarities. Their most impressive parts of their resume, or near the top of the list, is longevity and ability to stay in their prime as long as anyone in their respective sports ever. Their commitment to off-season training, health, wellness that has allowed them to stay as healthy as any player in the history of their respective sports.
Also doing some experimentation, also with their own body, their own diet. LeBron's gone through several different things. Remember the time in Miami where he started riding his bike and everything to work? He started having the bad back problems, changed up his training regimen. We've seen Brady as far as his eating. So I see a lot of similarities as far as the greatest that have ever done it. Their commitment to doing it, regardless of what their talent is, regardless of what their skill is, committing everything to doing it, and the demand it is on the other people that play with them. I know players that have played with LeBron, talk to them. I know players that have played with Brady, and they're persistent to be great every day, how it drives the organization and individuals in that organization.
And for both of these players, the unprecedented run of every year being there at the end. This decade, which for both of these guys should have been close to the closing decade of their careers, this decade, LeBron's been in the finals every single year. Tom Brady's been in the Final Four every single year. We don't see that in modern sports. And lastly, for both of these guys, they are both at the top, if not near the top, if not at the top, of the most clutch players their sport's ever seen. Brady with all the fourth quarter comebacks lapping the field in that regard.
Sure.
LeBron with more game winners, game 7 scoring average, closeout game scoring average than any player we've ever seen. Like, both of those guys have had the ability to raise their game in the biggest moments, and that to me is what really connects them.
I'll throw something else in there. They're two of the smartest athletes with respect to their games. They know their sport as well, if not better, than anyone else that plays, and they continue to know more. Both of these guys, you can ask after a game, take us back, and they'll remember the plays, they'll remember the way they happen, they'll remember the way they see it, almost more so X's and O's wise than any other player, and they want to continue to learn more.
In very few instances have I ever seen the best not be almost brilliant to geniuses at the sport. And we don't equate higher IQ, higher learning with athletics, and we miss that. I used to tell people all the time, Randy Moss was a genius. He was brilliant as far as football. I tell him something, man, he will remember it. I teach him a coverage, he will remember it. We would make a file of other cornerbacks, man, he would remember the things that we were trying to do. So I think that's something that, in pointing out the guys at the top, and Brady and LeBron being a part of that, man, they're brilliant at what they do. They play at a total different level than everyone else is playing.
And see, you and I were talking about this before the show. The other thing that they have that not many, if any, athletes in their sports can say is it's the team success and the ability to be there at the end is almost irrespective of the talent around them. And by that, I mean this. You can give Brady a great team, and you see what happens? The 07 Pats, right?
Right.
Give LeBron a great team, And you see what happens? Win 27 in a row like they did with Miami. But give Brady a team where they got 33 new receivers, where they trade away their number one, where they deal with injuries. And you know what? They're in the Super Bowl. Give LeBron the team he had last year with no Kyrie in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Guess what? They're in the NBA
Put
Finals.
Brady on a great defensive team, a team that runs the ball. Put him at the end of the game, because that's what he did in the first 3 Super Bowls. He's going to drive you down the field to put you in game winning so you can win before he's ready to be able to dominate those games. So he's basically had 2 Hall of Fame careers doing it 2 different ways, and it speaks to how much he uses his brain to be able to play at that level.
The 2 Hall of Fame careers, that's the other thing, is if you chop Tom Brady's career, if Tom Brady's career ended in 2010, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? And if his career started in 2011, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. If LeBron James's career ended after his 2nd year with the Miami Heat, he's one of the greatest players of all time.
Yes.
If it began with his 3rd year with the Miami Heat, he's one of the greatest players of all time. In football, you can only say that about a handful of guys. In basketball, you can say it about Kareem. You can say it about Jordan. There's only a couple guys who have stacked a Hall of Fame career on top of a Hall of Fame career.
But you'd think, though, that if LeBron did play football, he'd probably be at the top of his game. If Tom Brady played basketball.
Okay, well, that's, it'd be tough for Tom Brady to play basketball. It'd be tough.
Let's just end the comparison.
Okay.
Right there. All right, back to the world of NBA rumors, because we have a lot of them now. Kyrie Irving apparently thinking along the same lines as Anthony Davis. According to reports now, Kyrie is genuinely interested in reuniting with LeBron James in Los Angeles as a Laker. According to Fact, they used to be teammates in Cleveland before Kyrie demanded a trade before the start of last season. Nick, how surprising is it that now Kyrie wants to reunite with LeBron, given the way the 2 ended, that marriage ended?
It would have been shocking to me 2 weeks ago. I would have said, if I heard this report 2 weeks ago, I would have said impossible, 0%. I went on TV Friday morning before LeBron sent out this Instagram, before there started being speculation, and I tried to tell folks there was more to that phone call than had been reported. And it wasn't about planning for the future. It was not about these 2 guys saying, as far as I know, it was not about next year we should come together on the same team. It was about, man, how great was that? And did both of us not really recognize in the moment what a special thing we had and how important it was for the way each of our games are, how well we fit together? Spent too much time maybe butting heads instead of recognizing what we had there. And from that moment forward, to me, this wouldn't be surprising. I still don't think it's the most likely option. I don't think the most likely outcome is Kyrie as a Laker, but I know it's on the board. And I know for Kyrie and for LeBron, it could make an enormous amount of sense.
What would have to happen for all that to take place?
Well, the number one thing that had to happen already happened, and that was Kyrie admitting that he was wrong. See, I'm not as surprised as Nick is, because when you have one person that's fault, anything's possible. If you had both people had done something wrong, if LeBron behind with the Cleveland brass there, if he had kind of orchestrated getting Kyrie out, or LeBron knew more about that and Kyrie took exception to that, that wasn't the case. Kyrie was mad at Cleveland because he heard that they were potentially shopping him. Then he decided to advance that and say, I want out. LeBron was like, keep the kid. We'll work it out. So there's a possibility when one person's at fault, the first thing to do is for that person to realize it. That's what Kyrie did. And in realizing it now, as far as Kyrie moving forward, he's going to have several options. Nick and I never thought that he was going to stay in Boston. Do you want a team with KD potentially in New York? You don't know if he's going to come. LeBron's already in LA. So for me, it's who you have to team with. And LeBron would have to be a viable option if he's trying to win championships. If he's trying to go back down deja vu and be like, oh, down memory lane, then it should be about trying to get a championship team. So LeBron would have to be one of the options if his apology was sincere, and obviously, based on what everyone else is reading, it was very sincere.
And this is where I think people can learn the lesson of, even when you're angry or things look bad, scorching the earth is not necessarily a good option. Because LeBron could have made himself at fault after the fact. LeBron could have, after the trade happened, could have said some things either on the record or off the record negative about Kyrie. Could have done one of those very passive-aggressive Instagram things that he's known to do. LeBron always stayed above the fray on it. And then when the Celtics played the Cavs that first game of the year and Kyrie missed the potential game winner in the corner, LeBron instantly went over, gave him a hug, patted him on the head, maybe a little condescending. And whenever he was asked about it, he always spoke good about the kid, as he called him. And that left the door open to, if Kyrie wanted to reconcile, they could. To answer your question, how would it happen? Well, there's the very basic, he's a free agent. The Lakers could just sign him outright this offseason, even if they don't get Anthony Davis. The more interesting of the options is if the Lakers execute a trade for Anthony Davis before the deadline, the right trade, and they leave the money open, because there has been so much talk around the league about Kyrie and Anthony Davis playing together. Everyone always assumed that would be in Boston. It's one of the reasons the Celtics were so thrilled to get Kyrie Irving. Those two guys have such a good relationship, those two guys being Anthony Davis and Kyrie. But I don't think those two guys care where they play together. I do think Anthony Davis and Kyrie would like to play together. It's one of the reasons why the trade request for Anthony Davis was made when it was, to try to set the second domino in motion to see if the third one can fall this summer.
What happened to the Boston Celtics? Yes, last year this was their path. They had young talent who were clearly on the rise. There was talk Kyrie wanted to stay. He said he wanted to stay, and now it seems like he wants to jump ship, and they're losing.